You're fired." The woman slaps him hard, the sound cracking through the executive boardroom like a gunshot. And for a moment, the billionaire CEO just stands there, hand pressed to his reddening cheek, too shocked to speak. 12 board members watch in frozen silence as she grabs her laptop, her files, everything she came with, and storms toward the door. She stops at the threshold, turns back, and her voice shakes with 3 years of suppressed rage. "I hope your entire empire burns to the ground. You deserve it." The door slams. The echo lingers. And in that terrible silence, the oldest board member slides a single document across the table. Her voice is ice. "That's the 4th executive resignation this month, James. Care to explain why your VP of product just assaulted you in front of your entire board?" But here's the thing. That slap wasn't the beginning. It was the culmination, the explosion at the end of a fuse that had been burning for years. And to understand why a respected executive would throw away her career just to strike the man who made her rich, you need to understand what really happens when success becomes more important than people. Hit that subscribe button right now, because this is the story of a billionaire who went undercover in his own company and discovered he'd been the monster all along. Trust me, you won't see the twist coming. So let's rewind. 48 hours before that slap. The quarterly reports spread across the mahogany table tell a story of catastrophic failure. 23% revenue drop, 47% turnover in key departments. Anonymous employee reviews going viral on every platform, toxic management, ideas stolen, talent wasted, soul-crushing. The company he built from a college dorm room, the empire that made him a billionaire by 30, is hemorrhaging money and people, and the board has had enough. 90 days, the silver-haired chairwoman says, and her tone suggests this is not negotiable. Fix the culture problem, or we're voting you out. You've built a toxic empire, James. Now you get to save it or watch it collapse. He wants to argue, wants to defend himself, but the evidence is drowning him. Exit interview after exit interview citing the same problems, the same patterns, the same systematic dysfunction. And he has no idea what's actually happening 5 floors below his penthouse office because he stopped paying attention to people the moment the numbers got big enough. That night, expensive whiskey tastes like failure. His COO, his best friend since college, the only person who still tells him the truth, sits across from him in a bar where nobody recognizes billionaires who look defeated. "You're too far removed, man. You don't know what it's really like down there anymore. You see spreadsheets. They see tyrants. You see efficiency. They see oppression. You're crushing people, and you don't even know their names." The words land like body blows. When did he last walk through his own office? Really walked through it? When did he last know an employee's name who wasn't senior management? When did he become exactly the kind of CEO he swore he'd never be? At 3 a.m., alone in his penthouse, he does something he hasn't done in years. He reads what his employees actually say about him. Every anonymous review, every Glassdoor complaint, every Reddit thread where people who work for him describe working for him. "Management takes credit for our work. I trained 4 people who all got promoted past me. The Intern program is just free labor for ideas they steal. I've never felt more invisible in my life." One phrase appears over and over, like an indictment he can't escape. "They don't see us." The idea arrives with the force of desperation, mixed with ego. What if he went down there? Not as the CEO with the security detail and the performance, but as nobody. As exactly the kind of person his company doesn't see. As an intern. His COO thinks he's lost his mind. You want to go undercover in your own company? Do you understand how illegal this probably is? How spectacularly this could backfire? But panic makes people stupid, and ego makes them reckless. Within a week, the plan is in motion. Fake identity created. Jamie Thompson, recent graduate, 0 experience, generic resume. The kind that normally gets deleted immediately, except his executive assistant makes sure this one gets accepted. The confidence lasts exactly until his first day. The company software he's never personally used defeats him. The filing system he approved but never understood baffles him. The office coffee machine, the expensive one he selected based on a consultant's recommendation, nearly explodes when he tries to make coffee. Other interns stare. He's failing at being entry-level in his own empire. Then she appears, 32 years old but exhausted enough to look 40. Dark circles carved deep under intelligent eyes. Coffee cup that's been refilled so many times it probably qualifies as a medical intervention. She sits down next to him without asking, and her fingers fly across the keyboard, undoing his mistakes with the practiced efficiency of someone who's done this too many times. "You're the new intern. Jamie, right? Let me guess. They threw you in without training and expected you to figure it out. Yeah, that's standard here. I'm Maya, senior intern, which is corporate speak for we've been exploiting her way too long." Senior intern. The phrase snags in his mind like a hook. Internships are temporary. 6 months, maybe a year. How long has she been trapped here? She teaches him everything over the next 2 hours. Patient, despite clearly having her own mountain of work. Professional, despite the system obviously crushing her. And brilliant, so obviously, undeniably brilliant that he can't understand why she's still in an entry-level position. "Why are you helping me?" he asks. "Because I've trained 17 interns in 18 months, she says without looking up, and if I don't teach you properly, you'll make mistakes I'll have to fix later. Besides, management doesn't care about interns until they need someone to blame." Over the next 2 weeks, he watches her work. Stays late because she stays late, which is every night. Sees her solve problems 3 levels above her pay grade. Watches her mentor other interns despite getting no credit. Sees her create innovations that should make her irreplaceable. She's not just good, she's better than most of his executives. So why is she still here? Still invisible? Still unpaid? Then he sees it. The moment that changes everything. A team meeting where Maya presents a product feature idea, revolutionary, brilliant, exactly what the company needs. The presentation is flawless. The solution is genius. The room goes silent in that way that means everyone knows they're watching something exceptional. Their manager, middle-aged, mediocre, the kind of guy who's perfected the art of taking credit, nods slowly. "I'll take this under consideration." Meeting dismissed. 3 days later, that same manager presents Maya's idea to senior leadership. Word for word. Design for design. Except now it's his innovation, his brilliance, his career advancement. Through the glass walls separating interns from management, he watches Maya's face as she witnesses her own idea being stolen. Watches her shoulders slump. Watches her turn back to her computer without protest, without fight. With the terrible resignation of someone who's seen this exact betrayal before. That night, he finds her in the break room, and the question explodes out of him. "Why didn't you say something? Why didn't you fight? That was your idea." She laughs, bitter, exhausted, done. "You're new, so I'll explain how this works. If I speak up, I'm not a team player. If I fight, I'm difficult. If I stay silent, my work gets stolen. But at least I keep my worthless position. This company doesn't reward talent, Jamie. It punishes it. It rewards proximity to power, and I'm about as far from power as you can get." She leaves. He stands there in the fluorescent lighting of the break room he's never been in the building he owns, in the company he built, and sees himself clearly for the first time in years. He's not running a meritocracy. He's running a machine designed to extract brilliance from people like Maya while systematically ensuring they can never rise. A system that steals ideas, crushes talent, and protects mediocre managers who know how to play politics. His company isn't failing because of market conditions. It's failing because it's built on the systematic oppression of its most talented people. And he, sitting in his penthouse, counting his billions, congratulating himself on his success, built every crushing mechanism, approved every oppressive policy, created every barrier that's currently destroying someone who could save his empire if he'd just let her. The woman who slapped him 48 hours later, she'd been through the same system. 3 years of having ideas stolen. 3 years of watching less talented men get promoted past her. 3 years of being told she wasn't leadership material while doing the actual leading. That slap was her final resignation, delivered physically because words had failed for too long. And now here he is, undercover, watching it happen to someone else. And the question eating him alive is this: if the person at the top finally sees the system is broken, but revealing himself means losing the only person who can teach him how to fix it, what does he do? Does he maintain the lie and gather evidence? Or does he burn it all down right now and pray the truth is enough? Because Maya is starting to trust him, starting to open up, starting to look at him like maybe he's different from all the other interns who took what she taught them and left her behind. And when she discovers that the guy she's been mentoring, the one she's been vulnerable with, honest with, real with, is actually the billionaire architect of her oppression, that betrayal might be the one thing she can't forgive. Here's what nobody tells you about lies. They don't collapse all at once. They erode slowly, like a coastline being claimed by the ocean, until one day you look down and realize there's no solid ground left beneath your feet. The morning after watching Maya's idea get stolen, he arrives at the office with a new mission, though he doesn't quite know it yet. He's not just observing anymore, he's investigating, and what he's about to discover will transform him from a CEO playing dress-up into something far more dangerous, a man who finally understands what he's done. Maya is already at her desk when he arrives. Of course she is. She's always there first, last, and every exhausting hour in between. She doesn't acknowledge him, just keeps her eyes locked on her screen with the intense focus of someone trying to forget yesterday by drowning in today's work. He wants to say something, anything, but what do you say to someone whose dreams you watched get stolen when you're pretending to be nobody? So instead, he watches and learns. Over the next 3 weeks, Maya teaches him without meaning to. She teaches him by example, by existing, by being everything his company claims to value, but systematically destroys. She shows him how to read code not just for functionality, but for elegance. She explains why certain design choices matter to users in ways his market research never captured. She demonstrates what real problem-solving looks like when you actually care about the solution instead of just the profit margin. But more than that, and this is what keeps him awake at night, staring at his penthouse ceiling, she shows him what leadership actually means when you have no authority. The way she mentors other interns even though nobody pays her to do it. The way she fixes problems 3 levels above her pay grade because if she doesn't, they won't get fixed. The way she protects her team from management's worst impulses by quietly absorbing the chaos herself. She's a better leader than he's ever been, and she's doing it from the bottom of his broken system. The realization doesn't arrive like lightning. It seeps in like poison, slow and inevitable. Every day brings new evidence of the gap between who he thought he was and who he actually became. The CEO who believed in meritocracy built a company where politics trumps performance. The visionary who wanted to change the world created a machine that devours the people talented enough to actually do it. 3 weeks in, during a late-night work session, and there are many of these now, because Maya's workload is genuinely inhuman and he's trying to help while maintaining his cover, she finally opens up. Not much, just a crack in the armor, but it's enough. "Can I ask you something?" he says, pretending to struggle with a coding problem she could solve in her sleep. "Why are you still here? You're clearly too talented for an internship." She doesn't look up. Her fingers keep moving across the keyboard, but her voice carries the weight of a confession she's been holding too long. "You want the real answer, or the one I tell myself so I can sleep at night?" "Real answer." "I'm stuck." The typing stops. "I've applied for 5 promotions in 18 months. 5. Different departments, different managers, same result. Not the right fit. Need more experience. Maybe next time." Meanwhile, I've trained 11 people who all got promoted past me, including the guy who presented my idea as his own last week. The bitterness in her voice could strip paint. He wants to tell her he knows. He saw it. He's going to fix it. But he can't. Not yet. Not without revealing everything. "That's insane," he says instead, which feels pathetically inadequate. "Why would they?" Because I made someone angry 3 years ago. She finally looks at him, and her eyes are exhausted in a way that has nothing to do with sleep. I reported a senior manager for pushing unsafe product timelines. I was right. We would have gotten sued into oblivion if those products shipped. But I was also insubordinate and not a team player, and a dozen other corporate speak phrases that mean she spoke up when she should have shut up. That manager is gone now, but somehow his opinion of me stayed in the system like a virus. The words hit him like a physical blow because he knows exactly what she's talking about. He approved those HR policies himself, the ones that allow subjective cultural fit assessments to override objective performance data. He thought it gave managers flexibility. He never considered it gave them weapons. That's not fair, he says, and hates how hollow it sounds. Fair? Maya laughs. Sharp, bitter, done. Jamie, fairness is a fairy tale we tell interns on their first day before reality crushes it out of them. This company doesn't run on fair. It runs on who you know, who likes you, and whether you have the right demographic characteristics to make management comfortable. I'm a woman in tech who had the audacity to be right at the wrong time. That's a career death sentence here. She turns back to her screen, and he sees her hands are shaking slightly. From anger or exhaustion or hopelessness, he can't tell. Probably all three. I used to want to be a VP of product by 30, she continues, voice barely above a whisper. Had the whole timeline planned out. Now I'm 32, still an intern, and the only thing I've learned is that talent without connections is just an expensive way to hate yourself. The silence that follows feels like drowning. He sits there in his cheap suit and his fake identity, watching the woman who's teaching him what his company actually is, and realizes that every day he maintains this lie. He's complicit in her suffering, but every day he reveals the truth. He risks losing the only education that might actually save him. So he does what billionaires do when they don't know what else to do. He investigates. Late that night, after Maya finally goes home, after midnight, because of course it is, he uses his CEO credentials to access the HR database. He tells himself he's just checking her file, just confirming her story, just gathering data. But what he finds doesn't just confirm the problem. It reveals the architecture of an entire system designed to fail people exactly like her. The file is damning. 5 promotion applications, all marked denied. Performance reviews that read like love letters, exceptional, innovative, consistently exceeds expectations. Most talented intern we've ever had. And then, buried in the notes section where candidates aren't supposed to see, the poison, cultural fit concerns per manager, notes 2022-08-14. He clicks through, finds the original note, reads words that make him want to vomit. Too assertive for team dynamics, not receptive to management direction, potential attitude problems. Recommend extended evaluation period before advancement consideration. Translation: she was competent, confident, and unwilling to stay silent when she saw problems. In his company, apparently, that's a fireable offense they've just stretched into an eternal purgatory instead. But it gets worse, because once he starts looking, once he opens this particular door in the database, he can't close it. He finds similar notes in dozens of files, hundreds, all marked with the same bureaucratic language that means we don't like this person for reasons we legally can't say out loud. Not leadership material, attached to a woman who solved 3 major technical crises. Lacks executive presence, attached to a man with an accent from the wrong part of the world. Cultural fit concerns, attached to anyone who questioned anything, spoke up about anything, or was anything other than quietly, perfectly, invisibly compliant. His company isn't just failing Maya. It's systematically crushing everyone talented enough to threaten the comfortable mediocrity of management. And then, because apparently the universe has decided he hasn't suffered enough tonight, he finds the signature at the bottom of the HR policy that enables all of this. His signature, from 3 years ago, when he approved a management flexibility initiative that his HR director said would empower departmental leaders to maintain cultural cohesion. He built this. He signed off on the weapon currently being used to destroy the most talented people in his organization. The revelation doesn't feel like discovery. It feels like confession. He's about to close the database when his phone buzzes. His real phone. The CEO, one he's not supposed to have with him. His COO. The message is short and apocalyptic. Board moved up the timeline. Vote is in 30 days, not 90. They're preparing to remove you. We need to talk. Now. The walls are closing in from both sides now. The board is preparing to fire him. Maya is preparing to quit. His company is imploding from a disease he diagnosed too late. And he's sitting in an empty office at 2 a.m., split between two identities, effective at neither. But here's the thing about hitting bottom. It clarifies priorities. And as he sits there, surrounded by the evidence of his own systematic failure, one priority crystallizes with perfect, terrible clarity. He's falling in love with Maya, not the romantic comedy kind, although there's that too. The way his heart rate increases when she smiles at some coding solution she's particularly proud of, the way he's memorized how she takes her coffee, the way her laugh sounds on the rare occasions when she allows herself to laugh. But deeper than that, more dangerous than that, he's falling in love with who she is, the person his company is trying to destroy. The leader his organization refuses to recognize, the innovator his system buries. She represents everything he thought he built his company to celebrate, and she's the living proof that he built the exact opposite. The relationship develops naturally after that, the way wildfires develop naturally when you pour gasoline on sparks. They start having lunch together, not planned, just gravitational. She makes observations about company culture that cut like scalpels. He asks questions disguised as curiosity that are actually him trying to understand how badly he's broken everything. "Why do you think people leave?" he asks one day, pushing institutional chicken around his plate in the depressing cafeteria. Maya doesn't hesitate. Because staying feels like dying slowly. You show up every day, do exceptional work, watch less talented people get promoted, and eventually you realize the game is rigged. So you leave, or worse, you stay and stop trying. Become one of the mediocre managers protecting their territory. The company doesn't lose good people. It manufactures the conditions that destroy them, then acts surprised when they quit. That's dark. That's Tuesday. She takes a bite of her sandwich. Homemade, because even saving $8 matters when you've been an intern for 18 months. You asked for truth. Truth is dark here. He wants to tell her everything, wants to confess who he is, what he's discovered, how he's going to burn the whole rotten system down and build something better. But he can't. Not yet, because there's another truth he's learning. The gap between seeing injustice and being able to fix it is wider than he ever imagined from the CEO's chair. Case in point. He tries. Quietly, anonymously, using his CEO access, he tries to push through Maya's promotion, sends an encrypted message to HR recommending immediate advancement for intern exhibiting VP-level contributions, uses his authority to override the previous denials. It takes 3 days for the system to reject it, his own system, the one he built. The response comes from the same manager who stole Maya's idea. Appreciate the recommendation, but employee in question has documented cultural fit concerns that need resolution before advancement consideration. Suggest extended mentorship period under current supervision. Translation. We're keeping her exactly where she is because someone decided she's a threat, and your anonymous recommendation isn't enough to override the scarlet letter in her permanent file. He sits in a bathroom stall in his own building, hiding like a teenager, which is somehow fitting given his intern disguise, and realizes the horrifying truth. He can't fix this from the shadows. His authority only works when people know he's wielding it. Anonymous power is just impotent rage. The board won't let him change the HR policies mid-quarter. Legal ramifications, they said. Liability concerns. Translation. The system protects itself better than it protects the people working within it. He's trapped between two failures, As an intern, he's powerless to help Maya. As a CEO, he's the architect of her imprisonment, but the relationship deepens anyway because proximity and shared struggle create bonds that sanity would prevent. They start staying late together, not because the work demands it, but because neither of them wants to go home to empty apartments and the reminder of how isolated their lives have become. Maya talks about her dreams, the products she'd build, the teams she'd lead, the company culture she'd create if anyone ever gave her the chance. He listens like a student before an exam, taking mental notes on everything his organization should be but isn't. And then one night, after they've successfully debugged a critical system failure that would have crashed the entire product launch, a crisis they solved together while management was at some expensive dinner, Maya does something unexpected. She invites him to her apartment. It's not fancy, she warns, and he can hear the vulnerability beneath the casual tone. But I make a pretty decent pasta, and you've been eating cafeteria garbage for 3 weeks. Consider it payment for actually helping instead of just watching me work like most interns do. Her apartment is a revelation. Tiny, barely 400 square feet, the kind of place you rent when you're supposed to be temporarily in a position, but the temporary became permanent. But every inch of wall space is covered with something extraordinary. Product designs, flowcharts, innovation frameworks, strategic roadmaps, market analyses. It's not decoration, it's a portfolio. It's evidence. It's the visual representation of a mind that should be running departments, not fetching coffee. He stands in her doorway, looking at 3 years of stolen ideas and unutilized brilliance, and feels something break inside his chest. This is incredible, he says, because anything else would be inadequate or would require confessing who he really is. Maya shrugs, but he can see she's pleased. It's what I do when I can't sleep, which is most nights. The ideas just keep coming, and I have to put them somewhere, even if nobody will ever use them. They eat pasta. She was right. It's excellent. And she talks about her family, her journey, her hopes. She's first-generation college, worked 3 jobs to get through school, thought tech would be the great equalizer, the place where talent mattered more than background. Learned too late that every industry has gatekeepers, and they all went to the same schools, knew the same people, spoke the same language. "I'm thinking about quitting," she says suddenly, and the words land like grenades on the small table between them. There's a recruiter who's been calling, VP of product position at a competitor. Smaller company, but they actually seem to promote people based on merit. I've been ignoring her calls because I kept thinking, I don't know, that loyalty mattered, that if I just worked hard enough, eventually someone would see it. She laughs bitterly. Stupid, right? Loyalty is just what they call it when you're too scared to leave. He should encourage her, should tell her to take the job, escape this place, find somewhere that deserves her. But the words stick in his throat because he's selfish and falling and desperate to believe he can fix this before she goes. What if things changed? He asks instead. What if the company actually started recognizing talent? Then I'd wake up because that would clearly be a dream. She meets his eyes across the table, and there's something raw there, something honest. You're sweet, Jamie. Naive, but sweet. You still think the world is fair. Give it time. This place will crush that out of you like it crushed it out of me. The moment stretches between them, charged with things neither can say. He wants to kiss her, wants to confess, wants to promise her everything will change. But he's built his life on lies. Small ones, big ones, the kind that justify themselves as necessary, and adding one more feels like the least honest thing he could do. So he does it anyway. The kiss is soft, tentative, electric, with the kind of chemistry that develops when 2 people spend weeks in close proximity solving problems together. She kisses back, and for a moment the world narrows to just this: connection, honesty, 2 people finding each other in the wreckage of a system designed to keep them apart. When they pull apart, she's smiling, really smiling, not the tired grimace she wears at the office. And he realizes with absolute clarity that he cannot lose this woman to his own broken system. That was unprofessional, she says, but she's still smiling. We're interns, he replies. We're not important enough for it to matter. The joke lands wrong. because they both know it's true in the worst possible way. They're not important enough for HR to care about their relationship. They're not important enough for management to notice. They're invisible, disposable, beneath consideration. Except one of them is the CEO, and the other is brilliant enough to be, and neither of those facts changes the fundamental injustice of the moment. He goes home that night to his penthouse, his real life, his gilded cage, and stands at the window looking down at the city he supposedly runs. Somewhere down there, Maya is in her tiny apartment surrounded by dreams that nobody will fund. Somewhere down there, his company is destroying people he'll never meet. Somewhere down there, the system he built is functioning exactly as designed, protecting mediocrity, crushing excellence, maintaining comfortable inequality. The board vote is in 3 weeks. Maya said she's making a decision about the other job by the end of the month. The timelines are converging like a collision he can see coming but can't prevent. His COO's warning echoes in his head. They're preparing to vote you out. So he does what desperate men do. He starts planning a Hail Mary that will either save everything or destroy what's left. The next 2 weeks are a masterclass in escalating tension. At work, he and Maya grow closer, partners now in every sense except the official one. They solve problems together. They finish each other's sentences. They develop the kind of shorthand that comes from truly understanding how someone thinks. When she codes, he anticipates what she needs. When he gets stuck, she guides him through with patience that feels like affection. The other interns notice. Of course they notice. Workplace relationships are terrible secrets because proximity makes privacy impossible. But nobody cares because they're both interns, both invisible, both irrelevant to the power structures that actually matter. Except there's another development, one that makes his blood run cold. Richard, the manager who stole Maya's idea, is pushing for a new promotion. Not for Maya. She's still locked in her permanent intern position. For his favorite, a less qualified male intern Maya personally trained, who's been there for 4 months compared to her 18. The announcement comes in a team meeting, delivered with Richard's trademark smile that never reaches his calculating eyes. I'm pleased to announce that we're promoting Derek to Associate Product Manager. Derek's shown real initiative and leadership potential. Across the conference table, Maya's face does something he'll never forget. It doesn't crumble or rage or show any emotion at all. It just empties, like someone turned off the lights behind her eyes. She nods politely, adds her congratulations to the hollow applause, and goes back to work. That night, he finds her in the parking garage at 9 p.m., sitting in her car with the engine off, just staring at the concrete wall in front of her. He knocks on the window. She doesn't startle, just turns slowly, and when she rolls down the window, her face is a mask of absolute exhaustion. "I'm done," she says simply. "I'm calling that recruiter tomorrow. I'm submitting my resignation by Friday. I can't do this anymore, Jamie. I can't." This is it. The moment where everything breaks. He can keep his cover and watch her leave, or he can reveal himself and risk losing her in a different way. He can maintain his investigation and gather more evidence, or he can burn it all down right now with nothing but rage and good intentions. "Don't," he says, and his voice cracks on the word. "Please, just give it 1 more week. I know that sounds insane. I know you have no reason to trust that anything will change. But please, 1 more week." She looks at him like he's speaking a foreign language. Why? What possible difference could 1 week make? Because in 1 week, he's going to burn his entire company down and rebuild it from the ashes. Because in 1 week, he's going to stand in front of his board and every employee and confess everything. Because in 1 week, he's either going to fix the system that's destroying her or lose everything trying. But he can't say any of that. Not yet. "Because I need you to see something," he says instead. "Trust me. Please. 1 more week." The silence stretches between them like a chasm. Finally, impossibly, she nods. 1 week. "But Jamie, after that, I'm gone. I have to be. For my own survival." He watches her drive away, and then he sits in his own car, the beat-up Honda he bought for his intern disguise, not the Tesla in his penthouse garage, and makes the call that will change everything. His COO answers on the first ring. Please tell me you're calling to say you're done with this insane undercover experiment. I'm calling an all-hands meeting, he says. Thursday, before the board vote. I'm telling everyone everything. The silence on the other end speaks volumes. Finally, you understand this is career suicide? That the board will absolutely use this against you? That you're giving them ammunition to remove you? I understand that I watched the most talented person in my company get systematically destroyed by a system I created. And I'm not CEO material if I can't fix that. And Maya? Does she know? The question he's been avoiding. Not yet, but she will, along with everyone else. She's going to hate you. Probably, but at least she'll hate me while getting the job she deserves. He hangs up and sits there in the parking garage, in his cheap car, in his fake identity, and realizes that in 72 hours, he's going to risk absolutely everything on the belief that honesty and justice can trump politics and power. It's the most naive thing he's ever done. It's also, for the first time in 15 years, the most honest. The question isn't whether he'll survive what comes next. The question is whether the truth, revealed at the worst possible moment, can save the woman who taught him what truth actually means. And more importantly, when Maya discovers that the man she's been falling for is the same billionaire who built her cage, will she see a man trying to make amends, or just another powerful person who lied to get what he wanted? The question that haunts every liar eventually caught is this: when you finally tell the truth, will anyone believe you deserve redemption? Or will they only see the deception that came before? Thursday morning arrives like an execution date, which in many ways it is. The all-hands meeting is scheduled for 10 a.m. The board vote is scheduled for Friday. Maya's resignation is scheduled for Friday afternoon. Everything he's built, everything he's learned, everything he's become converges into a single moment where honesty becomes both weapon and shield. He arrives at the office as Jamie Thompson one last time, wearing the cheap suit that's become a costume he can't wait to shed. Maya is already at her desk. Of course she is. And when she sees him, she smiles with a sadness that breaks something fundamental inside his chest. She thinks this is their last week together. She thinks she's saying goodbye to a fellow intern who briefly made the nightmare bearable. She has no idea she's about to watch her entire reality reconstruct itself in real time. The auditorium fills slowly, employees trickling in with the suspicious confusion of people summoned to mandatory meetings that definitely mean something bad. All-hands meetings are either celebrations or executions, and given the company's death spiral, nobody's expecting cake. Maya sits 3 rows from the front, and he positions himself where he can see her face when everything detonates. At exactly 10 a.m., the CEO walks onto the stage. The real CEO. Him. The transformation from Jamie Thompson to James Morrison takes 30 seconds, just long enough to remove the cheap glasses, straighten his posture, and let the mask fall away. The room doesn't gasp so much as inhale collectively and forget to breathe out. He watches Maya's face. Watches confusion become recognition, become absolute shock, become something that looks dangerously close to betrayal. "My name is James Morrison," he says into the microphone, his voice steady despite the fact that his entire future is disintegrating in real time. "I'm the CEO of this company. And for the past 6 weeks, I've been working as an intern named Jamie Thompson in the product development department. I did this because our board gave me 90 days to fix a culture problem I didn't understand. I did this because I thought I needed to see the problem from the inside. I did this because I was arrogant enough to believe I could play detective in my own company without consequences." The room erupts, shouts, gasps, confusion, anger, a symphony of betrayal conducted by his own stupidity. But he pushes forward because stopping now means everything was for nothing. "I'm not here to defend that decision. It was manipulative. It was probably illegal. It was definitely unethical. But it was also the only way I was ever going to see what I'm about to show you." He clicks the remote. The screen behind him lights up with Maya's employee file. Her performance. Reviews. Her promotion denials. The poisonous note that's been killing her career for 3 years. He reads it aloud, his voice cracking on words like "too assertive" and "not leadership material," and watches Maya sink lower in her seat as her private nightmare becomes public testimony. "This woman," he says, and his voice is raw now, stripped of CEO polish, "is the most talented person in this building. She's solved problems I didn't know we had. She's created innovations that generated 40 million in revenue credited to managers who stole her work. She's trained 17 interns who all got promoted past her, and our system, my system, the one I approved and signed off on, has kept her trapped in an intern position for 18 months because one manager 3 years ago decided she was a threat." He clicks again. More files appear, dozens of them, hundreds, all marked with the same bureaucratic language that translates to systematic discrimination. This isn't about one person. This is about a system designed to protect mediocrity and punish excellence. A system that I built, that I funded, that I defended because I was too far removed to see what it actually did to real people. The room is silent now, the kind of silence that precedes either revolution or riot. He can feel the board members in the back row radiating fury. He can see his COO in the wings, head in hands, accepting the end of both their careers. He can watch Maya, who's standing now, moving toward the exit, and he knows he's losing her with every word, even as he's trying to save her. Effective immediately, I'm implementing the following changes. All subjective cultural fit assessments are eliminated from our HR system. All promotion decisions from the past 3 years will be independently reviewed. All employees who contributed to projects will receive proper credit and compensation, retroactively. And, he takes a breath, this is the part that might actually get him killed. I'm taking a 50% pay cut and distributing it to the employees who've been systematically underpaid while doing exceptional work, starting with the product development department, starting with Maya Santos, who I'm promoting to Vice President of Product Innovation, effective immediately, a position I'm creating specifically because she's earned it 10 times over. Maya freezes at the exit, turns, stares at him with an expression he can't read, shock, anger, gratitude, betrayal, all warring for dominance on her exhausted face. "I know this doesn't fix everything," he continues, speaking directly to her now, forgetting the hundreds of other people in the room. "I know I lied to you. I know I used you. I know that every moment we spent together is now tainted by the fact that I was never who I said I was. But everything you taught me was real. Everything I learned from you was true. You showed me what leadership actually looks like, and it looks nothing like what I've been doing from my penthouse office for the past 15 years. The silence stretches. Maya doesn't move, doesn't speak, just stands there, and he can see her processing, calculating, deciding whether the man on stage deserves anything other than her contempt. Finally, she walks out, just turns and leaves, and the sound of the auditorium door closing behind her echoes like a verdict. The meeting dissolves into chaos after that. Employees shouting questions, managers demanding explanations, HR desperately trying to figure out the legal implications of everything he just confessed to. But he doesn't care about any of it because the only person whose opinion matters just walked out, and he has no idea if she'll ever speak to him again. The board votes that afternoon. He doesn't attend. He's technically already resigned by implementing changes without their approval, but his COO texts him the result. 8-4 in his favor. Apparently, the viral video of his confession, someone recorded it, of course, has generated so much positive press that firing him would be worse PR than keeping him. He's won by losing everything, which feels about right. 3 weeks pass. Maya doesn't answer his calls, his emails, his messages. The VP position remains open. The independent review committee begins its work. The company starts changing, slowly, painfully, like setting a broken bone. It hurts, but it's necessary for healing. And then, on a Thursday morning that mirrors the first one, Maya walks into the executive floor, not as an intern, as the Vice President of Product Innovation. She's accepted the position. She's not accepting his apology, not yet, maybe not ever, but she's accepting the opportunity she earned. Their first meeting is professional, cold, necessary. She presents a product roadmap that's brilliant. He approves it without question. The committee is assembled. The work begins. And afterward, in the hallway, she finally speaks to him as something other than an employee addressing her CEO. "I didn't take this job because of you," she says. "I took it because of me, because I earned it, because I deserve it. But I need you to understand something. Every moment we spent together as Jamie and Maya, those moments are gone. That person doesn't exist. And I don't know if I can trust the person who does." "I understand," he says, and means it. "But I'm still learning. And I still have a really good teacher. If she'll give me a chance to prove I heard her." Maya considers this. Finally, carefully. Probation. Professional and personal. You want redemption? Earn it. Show me this wasn't just a performance. Show me the changes stick when the cameras aren't rolling. 6 months later, the company reports record numbers. Revenue up, retention up, innovation up. The board asks his secret. He looks at the gallery where Maya sits with her team. Diverse, empowered, thriving, and tells the truth. "I hired people smarter than me. Then I actually listened to them." After the meeting, they leave together, not as CEO and VP, but as two people who found each other in the wreckage of a broken system and decided broken things can be rebuilt if you're willing to do the work. They're not fixed, neither of them, but they're healing. Together, honestly, finally. The final image is simple. Two people walking out of an office at a reasonable hour, no longer sacrificing their lives to dysfunction, but building something real from the ashes of everything that was wrong. So here's my question for you. Have you ever worked in a place that wasted your talent? Have you ever felt invisible despite being exceptional? Drop a comment below about the worst job you've ever had and what you learned from it. And if this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt trapped in a system designed to hold you back, hit that subscribe button, because next week, we're diving into the story of a janitor who overheard a conversation that made him a millionaire overnight. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. See you in the next one.